Hey guys, happy Monday. Gonna read some Lions at Lunchtime, book number 11. So we got 4 clues, right? So far we need 2 more. So we'll get a new riddle, then we'll go on an adventure. Here's your chapters. Alright, here we go. Chapter 1, Before Lunch. Jack and Annie were walking home from the grocery store. Jack's pack was heavy. It held a big jar of peanut butter and a loaf of bread. "Are you going to have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich?" said Annie. "Or a peanut butter and honey sandwich?" Jack started to answer, but stopped. "Oh, man," he whispered. "What is it?" said Annie. "Look at that," said Jack. Something wrong with that picture. He pointed to the edge of the Frog Creek woods. In the shadows stood a small, delicate animal. It looked like a tiny deer. "It's a sign," whispered Annie. "Remember when we saw the rabbit? He was a sign of the Wild West." The deer-like creature leapt into the woods. Jack and Annie didn't stop to think. They followed as fast as they could, Jack's heavy pack thumping against his back as he ran. Finally they stopped and looked around. "Where'd she go?" he said. "I don't see her," said Annie. "Oh, wow," said Annie. She pointed up. There was the magic treehouse. It was shining in the noon sun at the top of the tallest tree in the woods. Its rope ladder swayed in the shadows below. "Where's Morgan?" said Annie. Morgan Le Fay wasn't waving at them from the window. She wasn't even at the window. "I don't know. Let's go up," said Jack. They climbed the ladder and went into the treehouse. Sunlight streamed through the window. It lit a stack of books and 2 scrolls in the corner. The ancient scrolls had held the riddles Jack and Annie had solved earlier. Jack took off his heavy pack. "Did Morgan leave us a 3rd riddle?" said Annie. "Looking for someone?" said a soft voice. Jack and Annie whirled around. "Morgan," said Annie. Morgan Le Fay had appeared out of nowhere. She looked ancient and lovely in the bright light. "Do you still want to become master librarians?" she asked Jack and Annie. "So you can help me in my work?" "Yes," they said together. "Wonderful," Morgan said. Then she reached into her robe and pulled out a scroll. "You've solved 2 riddles so far," she said. "Here is your 3rd." She handed the scroll to Annie. "And for your research," she pulled a book out from her robe and handed it to Jack. The book's cover said, "The Plains of Africa." "Africa?" said Jack. "Oh man, I've always wanted to go there." He opened the book. He and Annie stared at a picture. It showed hordes of zebras, tall giraffes, big animals with horns, and tiny deer-like creatures. "Hey, that's the animal that led us here," said Annie. "A Thompson's gazelle, I believe," Morgan said. "Where are the lions?" said Jack. "You'll find out," said Morgan. Maybe we need to plan this trip," said Jack. Morgan smiled. "No, go ahead. Make your wish now." Annie pointed at the picture. "I wish we could go there," she said. "Be careful," said Morgan. "Just keep an eye out." "For what?" said Jack. "The lions, of course," she said. "Wait," said Jack. It gives me goosebumps. Too late. The wind started to blow. The treehouse had started to spin. Jack's eyes squeezed shut. The treehouse spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 2. Jump, beast! Jump! Bright light flooded the treehouse again. A rustling sound came from outside the window. Annie peeked out and laughed. "Hey there," she said. Jack looked out too. A giraffe was eating leaves off the tree. It had a sweet, goofy face. Jack peered at the world below the giraffe. He couldn't believe his eyes. I'll show you that picture one more time. He saw a huge grassy plain, a wide river, and tons of birds and animals. More than he had ever imagined in one place. Giraffes and zebras were on the side of the river where Jack and Annie were. Thompson's gazelles and big-horned animals were on the other side. "Where are the lions?" said Jack. "I don't know," said Annie. "Do you think it's always this crowded?" "Let's find out," said Jack. He picked up the book on Africa and looked at the pictures of the animals. He read aloud. "Every year, in late spring, thousands of zebras and gazelles and millions of wildebeest migrate from the dry plains of Tanzania and Kenya." "What's migrate mean?" said Annie. Jack pushed his glasses into place. "It means they go someplace for part of the year, like birds going south for the winter." "All right," said Annie. Jack turned the page to read more. "Before they are safe in Kenya, the animals must cross the Mara River. Zebras go first, then wildebeest. The tiny gazelles swim last." Said Annie in a sad voice. "What's wrong?" said Jack. "Poor beast," she looked out the window. "They seem afraid." On the far side of the river, the horned animals were standing at the edge of the steep bank of the river. They stared down nervously at the rushing water. "Jump, beast, jump!" Annie shouted. "Don't be silly, they can't hear you," said Jack. He studied the broad plain. "I wonder where the lions are," he said. "I don't know, but I have to go," said Annie. "Go where?" said Jack. "To the river to help them," she said. "Help who?" said Jack. "Those wild beasts on the other side," said Annie. "I have to help them migrate." "Are you nuts?" said Jack. Andy handed Jack the scroll and started out of the treehouse. "Wait a second," said Jack. "We haven't even read Morgan's riddle yet." Annie stopped on the ladder. "Read it now," she said. Jack unrolled the ancient scroll and read aloud. "I'm the color of gold and as sweet as can be, but beware of the danger that's all around me. What am I?" Let me read that one more time. "I'm the color of gold and as sweet as can be, but beware of the danger that's all around me. What am I?" Annie started down. "Annie, we'll look for the answer in a minute," said Annie. "What are you doing?" Jack called, but there was no stopping her. Jack watched as she hopped off the ladder. Then she started to walk through the tall grass between the zebras and giraffes. "I don't believe her," he said to himself. He quickly put the Africa book into his pack. He started down the ladder. When he stepped onto the ground, he looked around carefully. The giraffes were eating the tree leaves. The zebras were grazing in the grass. Tons of birds flapped overhead. This is okay, he thought. He just had one little question. Where are the lions? Tomorrow, Chapter 3, Disaster.